Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome to Microteaching class. Okay, today's session we are going to talk about the principle of teaching and learning based on the cognitive, affective, and linguistics aspect. Okay, I'm going to highlight 3 things here. When we talk about cognitive aspect, so it relates to the mental and intellectual. Cognitive aspect consists of automaticity, meaningful learning, the anticipation of reward, intrinsic motivation, and strategic investment. Okay, emotional is the affective aspect. So it consists of language ego, self-confidence, risk-taking, and language culture. What about language? Here, language belongs to linguistic aspect. It's the native language, effect, interlanguage, and communicative. So I'm going to explain a little bit here in brief about 3 elements or aspects in teaching and learning here. Okay, what is cognitive principles? The principle 1 in cognitive principle is automaticity. So what is automaticity? If we talk about automaticity, means it's usually the result of learning, repetition, and practice. So here, when you practice a lot to learn how to bike, let's say this one is the example. So then it's kind of automaticity. So this is the ability that you do things without occupying the mind with the low level details required. So if you practice something that you are able to get used to it actually, yeah. And then the next is the principle of this aspect is subconscious absorption of language through meaningful use. If it is in the aspect of learning language, then you learn something unconsciously. So it's not about you learn grammar so you remember the structure of the grammar, no, but it's just more the sentence, how to use it, how to apply it, because you often hear someone's or everybody talks about it, everybody use the sentence like that. And then what about some possible application of the principle to adult instruction? So if we teach adult learners, then we have to focus on the use of language for purposes that are genuine as classroom context. So when we teach adult learners, so it's totally different with teaching for young learners. Means here you have to be very patient with the student as they quite slow. Actually, they are quite slow in achieve fluency, because when you teach adult, so we provide them something that they actually have to memorize, have to know the complexity of the materials. The second principle is meaningful learning. Meaningful learning refers to a new learning way where the new knowledge to acquire is related with previous knowledge. So meaningful learning means the background knowledge, the background knowledge of the issue. Let's say if you know about the earth, you've got many information about it, you've read a lot of books about it, so the background knowledge of it, right? So here, when the teachers provide or deliver some materials related on the earth, then you grasp it easily. It's different with the student or the learners who haven't got any background knowledge yet about the issue. Okay, so when you teach in a meaningful context, avoid the pitfalls of rote learning. First, too much grammar explanation, and then too many abstract principles. Okay, this third principle is the anticipation of reward. So here, if you want to implement a constructive classroom, then you have to provide an optimal degree of immediate verbal praise. So reward is not only, the thing that you can give to the students, but also it's in terms of, verbal praise. Because when the students get praise from the teachers, then he or she will get more confident about the materials. So he believes or she believes that he understands about the issue, about the thing that the teacher actually delivered in the classroom. And then encourage the student to reward each other with compliments and supportive active. Okay, the fourth is intrinsic motivation. What is intrinsic motivation? So then it refers to motivation that comes from inside the individual, so it's not from any external or outside reward, such as external motivation is just when the student are able to answer the question, to do the quiz well, and then the teachers give something. It could be like stars, it could be candies, for example. Okay, so intrinsic motivation here, learners perform tasks because it is fun, interesting, and useful for themselves, and they have a very good motivation in learning because they enjoy the session, they enjoy the learning. Okay, the next principle is strategic investment. So investment of time, effort, and attention to the second language or foreign language to help you to be comprehend and produce the language. So we need to invest time, effort, and attention while we are learning language. Okay, but the result, will be satisfy the student because they know their effort is paid. Next, the sixth principle is autonomy. Autonomy here means students' successful mastery of the foreign language will depend on a great extent on learners' autonomous ability, both take initiative in the classroom and continue the journey to success beyond the classroom and teachers. So the successful of the learners will be counted in the outside of the class. So he or she or they as a students explore their skills outside the class, and then inside the class, so she or he can control, he can improve the way they gain the information, gain the knowledge from the teachers. Okay, the effective principles. Now we go on to the effective principle. In the previous slide we talk about cognitive, now affective principles. The first is language ego. Okay, it creates within the learners a sense of fragility, a defensiveness, and raising of inhibition. The 8 principles: willingness to communicate. Students believe themselves in their capacity to accomplish communicative tasks, and they're willing to be risk takers, to produce and interpret language. How can your classroom reflect a principle of willing to communicate? Give sample verbal and non-verbal assurances to students, affirming your belief in students' ability. Create a good atmosphere in the classroom and help the student to understand the risk-taking means like they have to be more responsible in comprehending the materials. Okay, the ninth principle is the language culture connection. So it's not about you teach about the issue, the core of issue, but also it must be, going to the complex system beyond the materials itself. It's not about language you teach, but also it's about, the value, the cultural customs, the ways of thinking. So it's not about a specific things, but then you can go beyond that. Okay, so here the linguistic principles. So when we talk about the linguistics principle, the 10th principle is the native language effect. The second, okay, so here in this slide, I provide the, what is that, the example of the linguistic principle. So here, the student are able to, to imitate the language from the native speaker. So they are able, to do some kind of practice and exercise to improve the students' skills, to improve their skills in mastering language. And the 11th principle is interlanguage. Okay, interlanguage is the, it's kind of teacher's way, okay, to give some exercise about tolerance for certain interlanguage forms, and then to give the students to give a chance to the learners to be logical in gaining or in the process of thinking. And then the 12th principles is communicative competence. So communicative competence is the goal of the language classroom. Actually, you teach language. Means you expect the student to communicate well using that language, using that foreign language or second language. So the goals are best achieved by giving due attention to language use and not just usage, to fluency and not just accuracy, to authentic language and context, and students eventually need to apply classroom learning to previously unrehearsed context in the world. Okay, many thanks. That's all the materials for this session, and there is some questions as the assignment. I'll see you again. Thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.